All right, we're back. Okay, well, body's sort of sitting where I want. Can I do these ladder bars with the body on? Probably not. So let's start with the front suspension. We'll pull the motor out. Doesn't need to be in there anymore. I can do those gussets on the transmission, and then I'll figure out how I'm going to do the hump up on top. How I'll close that up. I might close in the back part, and then where the drive shaft will be in, and then kind of leave the front semi-open. Yeah, I think we're going to do that. And then this stuff's good. I haven't picked up any steel to do that yet, but I want to get the motor and stuff out so I can get all this junk off and build this cradle. I basically want to build the front spring perch, and then I can get rid of this original cross member and what's left of the sway bar, get that out of there. So, first things first, motor and tranny got to come out. So going to be a very simple plan of attack. I'm going to start by making the upper plate, which is just the width of the spring. And how am I doing that? Yeah, no, I'm going to do that. I'll go straight across. I'm going to make a side saddle that I can use a stock style clamps back onto it. I'm trying to think if I can do that. We'll see. I might be coming up with a hybrid setup yet, I'm not sure. But first I got to get rid of some of this. So I'm actually going to blow this away, and then just half of this cross member for now. It's just in the way. I don't need it. It's going to all come off eventually. I'm just using it to make sure the frame stays where I want it to be. So yeah, do a little bit of plasma cutting. We'll do some measuring, and then we'll do some cutting on the table. You can see this. This is my whole drawing. Basically all I want are these two pieces. I made these squares because I'm going to probably weld them on between the motor mount and these pieces. And then this stuff is basically, I don't know, I have dead space that I wouldn't use for anything, so I always just use up. I basically draw a big circle around my parts, and then I draw these little, like these are gussets that I could use somewhere. I don't know. There'll probably two of them I'll be able to use for behind my transmission on that cross member. And then the rest, I just have a bucket with these triangular gussets I always throw in just to use. Otherwise, I'd have this weird slab of steel I'd never be able to use for anything. So I usually draw this up. It doesn't take very long to do, but it usually works for stocking up my bin of extra crap. So anyways, I just use this program. It's called eMachine Shop, so it's free. I think the initial idea of it is you could draw up your parts and you send them off to the company, they'll cut them, and then you can get them back. I just have an old version, so it still lets me export in a way that I can do things. So the program is pretty simple. It's almost like Word for me anyway. It's kind of dumb that way. And then I just use SheetCam, to which is what I use to, it basically tells the plasma table like where to go. Like basically it draws a map for this machine to understand where all to go. So I have, and basically you tell it and it just plots out a whole, however it has to go around the table and do its thing. So it tries to do all the holes first, and then all the big pieces it'll do them last. It's usually the way it works. If you accidentally leave a gap somewhere, then you get like weird problems like I had on that plate before. But anyways, this thing maps it out so you can kind of see the mapping, the way it's trying to, where it all wants to go. So it's kind of straightforward there. From here, I just kind of dump it out, and then I use Mock. So this is the program that actually takes all this mapping and tells my junk where to go on the table to do its stuff. So this is set up, pretty much ready to fire, gonna cut. So because it's so easy for me to do, I always do fancy holes, speed holes and stuff, because it takes no time to do. So that whole drawing probably only took me a couple minutes to do, so I don't think it's that big of a deal for what I'm getting out of it. Anyways, I'll let this thing finish up, and then we'll see what it looks like in the car. Well, I kind of tacked everything together. She is sitting on her front suspension, but it is definitely going to need a step out. We're going to have to step notch this frame just so we get ourselves some travel. Not a big deal. Well, basically, I'm going to mark this out, but when I flip the chassis over, I'm going to cut out and box. I might just do a blind cut for now, but I will end up having to box that section up, and then we should be golden. But this is in enough for now. I'm not going to mess with it tonight, but tomorrow I'm going to blow away this front cross member, get that all out of the way. I built this in such a way that I'm going to make another plate that goes on top and then another one on the bottom so I can connect to my spring, and I can just sandwich the works together. So when I did draw this, this came up to an arch, but around here, about a 4-inch chunk in here is actually flat. So I'm going to double up the plate on top. Underneath, 4 bolts, done. We're going to do something similar to that in the rear too when we get there. All right. Well, I guess, yeah, that's it for tonight. Before I go in, I'm going to get all smelly, and I'm going to do a filter change on this thing. Fuel filter, and then go in for the night. purposely blowing off all the stuff off the front. Gotta take these. This has got to come out. I don't like the look of the front horn, so I'm probably going to do my own thing there later. Change of plan. I decided to ditch my leaf spring. I totally intended to do it, but I was doing something else in the shed, realized I had coilovers, all from that other car. So this is still junk that I actually had bought. It's that T. I had it all mocked up here. So all those bits are here. I still have the steering box because it had a Corvair box and an underfloor pedal assembly, to which I'm not running. So I'll have those for a different hot rod. For now, I'm just gonna basically use all the garbage here. So looks like a lot of this is just gonna sort of work. I was trying to overthink this piece here, and the buddy was by and kind of just made this so much simpler for me. I kind of fitted my drive shaft. I'm not 100% if the angle's right, but my ladder bars have adjustments so we can kind of fix stuff up. So I'm basically going to run a 2x2 across the bottom. I'm going to notch it out for the drive shaft eventually, but for now we can kind of leave it all mocked up. So I'm going to plate these two sides. I'm going to run a piece of 2x2 across. I have these shock mounts, to which came with these tabs. So I should be able to reuse these. They'll just put these onto the 2x2. I'll have to trim one side. But I think they'll just end up in the front there. I'll kind of mount them up to the 2x2 that I'm going to plate, to which then I'm going to gusset to the frame after. And then the coils. Yeah, I don't know, not a huge coil fan, but this particular truck's just using all of the stuff I don't really dig. So I'm just throwing it on there. And honestly, makes it very, very easy. You can kind of see, this is like all the stuff you can buy at Speedway, so kind of make a relatively easy job for a feller. Anywho, I'm going to make use of this original cross member because it's pretty strong and it's boxed. So I'm going to use it as my upper shock mount. I'll build myself a tab that comes off of here, to which then where the coil is going to go, I'm going to build myself an adjustable bracket that I'm going to make a square bracket with adjustable holes in it that I can kind of bolt the shock up to. And then I have this panhard. I might have to shorten this down, but being that this is the 8.8, it's got this tab on it. So I'm going to make myself a mount off of there, to which I can mount this panhard onto. And then it doesn't affect anything in the back. So that's the plan. I'm going to do some measuring and some figuring out. A little bit of cardboard CAD, and yeah, start building some junk. Seeing me cut, kind of zap them together. These are going to be my lower mounts. I guess I could have rounded that, but meh, whatever. And then, so these are my mounts. They're going to go in the axle. These ones are going to go through my shock. So I kind of have some adjustability, depending which way I bolt those together. That's good. These are my upper tabs. I'm going to get those all on. I'll have to gusset everything yet, whatnot, but for now I just want to get it together so it's kind of sitting on its own suspension. And then I'm going to cut some plates and some square tubing so I can do the radius rods or the rear hairpins, whatever you want to call them. So I'm going to cut that stuff quick, and so we can kind of zap it all together, and then we can kind of start doing a wheel alignment on it, make sure everything's square, and go from there. I didn't quite show my strategic placement, but things didn't line up quite right. My other mounts are okay. I'm not 100% if they're going to be long enough. They might actually have to come down more, but we'll play it and figure out. I'm figuring there's going to be weight on it and the suspension will go down, so I'm not worrying too much about it. But my upper mounts clearly are not working. I got to make some new ones. They don't, I think the shock has to come out more. Where I had it, they're not jiving. So we're going to make up some new upper mounts. The lowers, we'll see if they work. The ladder bars will be fine where they are. They'll kind of work with everything I got going on there. Yeah, because once those are burned in, those will get burned in. I got to get that brace done. Yeah, had a late start and didn't get as far as I wanted, but what can you do? That's how she goes. So tomorrow's plan is to do everything I plan to do tonight. Anyways, I guess that's it for tonight. I don't want to sit in here too late. So I'm just cutting my gusset plates to hold my ladder bars. So once that's cut, I'm gonna zap those into the frame there. And then I'll be able to cut a piece of square pipe to go across. Tubing, pipe. And then we'll make our mounts for the front, the ladder bar mounts, to which then we can zap this back in. And we'll be very close to being able to cut this diff loose so it can kind of free hang. Alrighty, more plasma cutting. We're making up a second bracket for this one, and we're going to make up a new set of these for the panhard. I've loosely cut this plate. I'll have to shape it up better yet. But this one will bolts onto here. then the panhard is going to go across to that plate. So these are the flat brackets that I'm making right now. And once that's done, I'll give everything an extra little tack. We should be able to bust the welds, and she should be able to sit on her own legs here. Well, there we go. That's the basics of it. Seems to work okay. I mean, provided you tack weld everything really well, it seems to hold up. My first experiment, she kind of fell apart. I only had like 2 little tacks on that thing. So we tacked everything together pretty good. It's not bad. Seems to function okay. I'm gonna have to notch out a little bit for the drive shaft. We'll do that later. Once I get the powertrain and stuff in, see where we're at, because I don't know how far down this hangs, like on a bump up, if the drive shaft will hit that. We still have to add a gusset from there to the chassis, or the outside frame rails. But overall, everything works. I may have to extend these brackets, because they're not on the 2 bolts that I wanted. They're only on the single. They seem like a fairly stiff spring. I guess the fella, when he bought them, if these were for that T, that would have been a really crappy ride. But anyways, all tacked. That's all good. Front end is made up. We still have to notch those out and box them yet, but we'll get to that later. And then we're going to clean up these front rails yet, but hey, progress. Getting dang close. To what, I don't know. Close. A little bit closer. Anyways, I think that's where I'm going to leave this one. I want to thank you folks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one. Later.